Welcome back to the program. If you're just joining us, this is the campaign edition of Choice 2017. And I must say, yesterday was a very interesting day, politically speaking. There are those who have referred to it as Super Saturday. President Uhuru Kenyatta was in Kakamega, region well known as NASA stronghold, and on the other hand, NASA was in Meru yesterday, of course, after they toured Tharaka Nithi. And there are a lot of goodies that were dished out in Kakamega by the president and his Jubilee brigade. But let's listen to some of the things the president had to say yesterday in Kakamega.
Tukiwaomba kwa heshima na kwa unyenyekevu, kwa sababu sio lazima. Tunaelewana? Sio lazima. Sisi tunauliza kwa heshima na unyenyekevu. Safari hii Ikolomani tutembee pamoja.
Mimi nasikia huko mahali wanamangamanga wamehangaika sana na mimi. Wanasema Uhuru ni mtu mzuri, ule mtu ambaye yuko na maneno ni huyu mwingine huyu. Mimi nataka niwaambie, mimi sio candidate kwa election hii. Kama kwa kweli wanaamini Uhuru ni mtu mzuri, sasa wakubali tupitishe Uhuru tarehe 8 mwezi wa 8, alafu wabaki sasa wakijipanga kulimana na mimi 2022.
Tumeweka bei ya unga shilingi 90. Unaelewana? No, kuna shortage. Sikilizeni mimi bana, sio tubishane. Tunaambiana vile ilivyo. Na bei tumeweka, lakini kuna shortage. Hiyo ndio ukweli. Lakini hiyo mahindi ambayo tumeagiza kutoka nje ikifika, mahindi itakuwa ya kutosha.
Hii factory ambao wenzetu huko wanapiga kelele kila siku ati sisi ndio tumepandisha bei ya sukari. Nani aliangusha? Ilianguka mbele ya sisi tuingie au ni wale? Si ni wale? Sisi serikali yetu ikakuja, tumeweka tayari shilingi bilioni 3,100, 3.1 billion that we have injected in Mumias factory here. Sasa jamani, kama tulikuwa tunadharauliana vile wanasema, hiyo pesa tungeweka au tungepeleka kwingine?
Well, that summed up Jubilee's tour in Kakamega, that is at Buhungu Stadium, as well as parts of Ikolomani. President Uhuru Kenyatta there, giving it clear as it is to the people of Kakamega, telling them that the government has pumped in about 3.1 billion shillings into the sugar sector. They also added some 500 million on top of that to pay sugar farmers. But before we discuss that, let me just go straight to Thika, because those are some of the live pictures coming our way from Vihiga. Actually, it's not Thika. Rita is going to join us shortly from Thika, but those are the pictures we've had for you from Homa Bay. Preparations are underway there. We're still waiting for the ANC leader, Musalia Mudavadi, to address NASA supporters there. And speaking of NASA, we're also expecting a press briefing from some of their top luminaries right here in Nairobi. The content of their discussion or their briefing, they've not yet made it clear, but perhaps we believe they're going to shed more light on their manifesto that we do expect them to launch tomorrow. It's something that we've already discussed here in studio. Let me just start with you, Prof. You've seen some of the sound bites there from Kakamega's Buhungu Stadium, as well as Ikolomani, both from the president and his deputy. We've seen the rally there. Of course, the politicians will refer to it as being successful because of the numbers of people. You've termed it as entertainment. But do you believe they can make inroads? Jubilee, do you think they can make inroads in Kakamega?
Yes. Let's put it this way. There's no area that is anybody's stronghold anymore. Because there is deep erosions on those places. And the mess in the recent primaries added to that erosion, such that no one can say for sure that this is mine. And which explains why part of the reason we have so many independents. And the next parliament is likely to have a lot of independent members because of the disillusionment represented by the parties and the way they behavior. So the figures, the numbers we are seeing there are indicative of something. Whether that something is 90%.
You're referring to the number of people who've attended the rally?
That's why I said it's a good entertainment. You are getting big numbers. which are good for the eye
Yes.
and for the soul, particular politicians' souls. Because, we see those things. Do they mean that Uhuru is making inroads? Yes. In the same way that Raila's presence in Meru means that he's making inroads.
No, let's just zero in on Kakamega for now.
That's what I'm saying. You see, yes, he has made inroads. There's no question about it. The amount of inroad is another matter. But his numbers and the likely of getting more votes than he got last time
It's high.
is very high.
Travis, do you agree with that?
Not really. In fact, the large crowds you see all over, Kakamega in particular, is simply because they have not been given the jobs they were given. That crowd cannot even make 60,000. If there were 1 million jobs in Kenya in the period up to today, we would not have so many youths ready to attend those public rallies. So I think it is just showing the president and his deputy that actually we have too many youth who need jobs. Let's give them jobs. That is the message that you get there clearly. And of course, they anticipate some goodies. Not that they want to vote for anybody. They go there, in case goodies are falling, they can run home with it. But what touched me on that campaign in Western is to say who brought down Mumias. I have the history of Mumias very well. I remember when Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero moved to Mumias, it had made losses 3 years consecutively.
Yeah.
The year Kidero moves to Mumias, it made profits until the year he left. After he left, he started making losses. If it was possible for Kidero to resurrect Mumias in just 1 year, 6 years since Kidero left Mumias, including 1 billion injection, how come it is not making any profits?
But
there has to be another reason.
There are people also blaming Kidero for the mess at Mumias, but that's a discussion we'll have for another day. Let me just get your comment on this, Jerem. You've seen the huge numbers in Kakamega, and you've seen the goodies that the president came with, the 500 million shillings that are meant to pay farmers, the 3.1 billion shillings meant to bail out Mumias. This is a discussion we've had even yesterday, but at the same time, you coming from that part of the country, or at least your neighbors, you have a feel on the ground. How is the situation like?
One, there are 3 things here. One, they go there to be paid. Remember, there are issues, or we've had information that some of these people are ferried as far as from other constituencies, told that when you come, we'll give you this amount of money so that at least you cannot go home empty-handed. That is one. 2, they've been seeing the president on TV. They would like to come and see the president, live, and talking to them. 3, and you heard it when he talked about maize, and there was boo, The reason being, 21st century, in 2017, we are talking of food security in Kenya, yet we know as a country the favorable environment that we have. It is wrong for the president to talk of other companies or these companies, fail because of certain individuals. Actually, when you come into government, it is upon the government, the sitting government, to make those companies that fell to come up or to revive them. So it is not about them. It's about where are we as a government, what have we done to assist. If coming up with goodies now, actually, that is voter bribery, and you need to be disqualified.
Hassan, I'd like to hear your comment on that. He talked about people coming out for political rallies to see the president because they normally see him on TV. But you can talk of the same issue in Meru as well. There are those who have seen Raila on TV, they wanted to see him physically, perhaps. What do you have to say about that?
See him physically and also see him chew a few twigs of miraa, which is what he seems to do when he goes to that, miraa growing part. But besides the spectacle, I think there's also the issue of incentive. I mean, people go there. These days, there's, significant amount of handouts. I mean, ranging from 500 to 2,000 shillings. So that's more or less like, a week's job if you get 2,000 and you're paid 500 a day. So there's, everything to go for. I mean, if you're unemployed particularly. But coming to the issue of unga, I think it was, you had the booing, and I think it was just the wrong place to mention that particular commodity. I mean, we all know the affinity of, some of our brothers with unga. So if you go there and talk about unga, then, and you have not actually, I mean, there's one thing, you admit there's a crisis, and then you say you have already, put measures in place to address that particular shortage. But
Hassan,
the thing is, there's no
Hassan,
consistency.
let me just cut you short. Hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it. But let me just get a phone call here from Bernard from Syokimau. Bernard, what's your comment, or perhaps what's your question?
Yeah. Thank you. My question, okay. Mine is just one comment to Prof. What Prof just said about Kakamega.
Yes.
The idea that Jubilee is making inroads in Kakamega is neither here nor there. The Prof should be fair, and you can even see it from what the President was saying. Give us vote mukipenda, kama hampendi sawa. If you cut that comment alone, there is nothing like Jubilee making roads in Western Cape. Please, let's be fair to Jubilee and not to lie to them. Thank you.
Prof, you'll react to that caller. I believe we have another caller who's coming through. A very good afternoon to you, and perhaps what's your comment or your question? I think we've lost him. Prof, what do you have to say about that?
I like what the caller said. Be fair to Jubilee.
Yes. So you're in agreement with it.
So the point is, what I said, I believe that Uhuru, let's not just talk about Jubilee, because it's Uhuru, is making inroads in various places. The level of that inroad, or the amount of inroad, can be discussed. But it would be wrong to assume that there's nothing going on, because there is a movement, across the country, and no one can take people for granted. We've seen that very clearly. You can't take people for granted. And that's why I'm saying the personality, the believability, and Uhuru is very charming. Yes, of course, there was that booing about the unga, and we know unga is a very fluid thing. Yes, it's true that they are bringing more maize. It's true that they had lowered the price of unga. It is also true that it's not available everywhere. Okay? These are realities. And what I thought the president was trying to say is to admit...
And he has admitted to that.
Yeah, he's admitted to
So
that there is
people,
a challenge. Give him credit for admitting that there's a what?
Yeah.
There's a challenge.
It's a challenge,
Instead
but
of,
many accuse him of bringing it in the first place. Those who are saying they didn't have
that's not being fair. We are talking about fairness. That's not being fair, that he brought it on himself. We don't know that for a fact. I don't know. So I cannot sit here and condemn or defend him. But it is also true that the apparent shortage of food does not look proper.
Yes.
We had a drought, yes, and droughts do account for a lot of shortages. Now, was the country properly prepared
That's the main
for this thing?
Yeah,
it is a good question, and it can be answered one way or the other.
Hold on to that, please.
Yeah.
Let me just get this caller. Okay, good afternoon. Where are you calling from, and perhaps what's your comment or question that you have?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Ernest. I'm calling from Syokimau. I just want to make comments about the Meru and the Kakamega rallies.
Yeah, go on.
With respect to how the presidential candidates are addressing the crowds.
Yes.
I noticed, because I watched much more of the Meru than what you've shown on your clip. I was watching on Periscope. And the NASA presidential candidate was being like a commander, authoritative. He wasn't begging. And he was talking about leaving Missouri, Egypt, and going to Canaan.
Yeah.
And he was like a commander giving instructions. When it gets to this time, we need to do this. You need to do this about guarding the ballots, and etc., etc. Ikifika saa sita usiku tunavuka Jerusalem, Jericho, tunaenda. He was commanding. Where I'm looking at President Uhuru, he's begging, right? So at this stage, where people are looking for food on their table, unga, and the stomach is nearer the heart, I think, than the head. I get the feeling that Jubilee is addressing our heads and NASA is addressing our hearts, our emotions. And I think that's where Jubilee is having a problem to pass their message. If I just quickly comment on the issue of IBCs, I would just like to say that the problem that I have with Chebukati is that he doesn't gather the strength to say, I don't get instruction from the president. Why can't he just say that? Well, if he says that, then people might begin to start believing him. But he fears to say that. Why? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. There is Ernest Odhiambo calling coming to us all the way from Syokimau. Hassan, I choose not to quote whatever he said about people thinking with their other parts of the body, not their head. But there's something very important that he raised there. So do you think this food crisis that we're witnessing now is a failure perhaps by the government?
Of course. I mean, one of the things a government should do, surely, is to have some basic commodities like food. And we've been talking about food shortage for a while, and, it's a perennial thing. It comes in, every few years. So, and every single time we're ill-prepared. Just one drought, 2 seasons of rain fail, and we're in the middle of this crisis. And yet we continue to talk about our National Reserve and all these things. So what happens to the National Reserve? Are these things that are just kept there to give people some sense of comfort that actually do not, provide the required reprieve during times of shortages? But of course, there are also issues of cartels that have featured prominently in our politics. So is this an artificial shortage? As Prof said, he doesn't know whether Uhuru or the government brought this into itself. And that opacity itself is telling, because this is what some of these people exploit, is to create that particular shortage. The fact that our professor doesn't actually know whether this is artificial or not is telling in itself. How about the common person? How is this supposed to actually dissect these things and know that this is actually a ploy by other people to make money, and it's not a genuine shortage.
Prof, as you react to that, there's something that caller from Syokimau had raised, indicating that Raila saw the body language of Raila, apparently, according to him, is that he was very authoritative and he wasn't like down to earth, literally begging like Uhuru did in Kakamega. Of course, you react to what Hassan said, but at the same time, do you think Raila had used a good approach as far as approaching the people in Meru is concerned? Do you think it was authoritative?
Not just Meru, but across the country. He comes out as a warmonger. See the image of Joshua itself. Joshua was a warmonger, the biblical Joshua.
Kevin, you react to that. You have your time.
And after Joshua jumped into Jericho, whatever he did, there were more than 200 years of chaos, killing each other. So the image being portrayed is to plunge the country in a prolonged period of factional warfare before maybe a David or so comes up 200 years. I don't think that's a very good image that he may be thinking about. So the image of Joshua is not a very good one. And as that caller says, this man is just ordering people around. No consideration of what people think, which is a terrible thing. Now,
let me just
what Hassan said, I think he said something. I'm not going to dispute with that.
Yes.
And it's true, I said I do not know what the facts are. Okay? And it's no use pretending that I know. I'm not in the government. I'm not in the opposition. I'm just an observer. And just like Hassan here, who I think is a good observer, he's just seeing...
You're free to speculate as well.
Yeah, say that. So there is, we need to know more of what the hell is going on.
Kavis, I think I need to bring you in. I'm not well conversant with the biblical analogies there, but what do you have to say about what
you need to get it correctly? I think Prof didn't get what the Syokimau guy said. The Syokimau guy said that Uhuru was in a hostile territory in Kakamega, so he had to plead. Raila was at home in Meru, so he had to just say his things.
But the results in 2013 does not indicate that.
The results in
2013?
No, we are talking about how the guy talked in Meru and how the other guy talked in Kakamega. The guy in Kakamega was in a hostile territory. He had to plead with them, please, Raila was feeling very at home in Meru.
Yes.
So he had to just say his things in a form of almost like order. We are going to do this, we are going to do that.
So you agree with the caller that Raila was authoritative?
Yes, he was authoritative because he was feeling, these are my people, they are following me, they are going with me. Sorry?
Do you think that is going to make him augur well with the people? You know?
Yeah, the people were cheering him all through. If I am ordering you and you don't like it, you see what happened in Kakamega. That is what happens. But there's something I don't want to go off my head before I talk about it.
Yes.
It's about this shortage that the president talked about in Kakamega. The PS for Agriculture told us that maize was able to be brought in 5 days because there's always maize hanging around at sea ready to be imported. How come that has not happened now? We are now being told this is the second week. The president is saying when maize arrives, the shortage will be gone. It will come when people are dead. So let them use the same magic they used on day one. Because Parliament passed this thing. 5 days we had maize in Mombasa. How come that has not happened again? Lies cannot withstand the test of time. They didn't tell us the truth.
You've delivered your point. Jaron.
Yes. First, I don't think it's about that Raila is a warmonger. That is not true. I think as a leader, people have to know your stand. You can't go to one region and beg. The other side, you are known. You seem to be, authoritative in a way. No. People have to know your stand. And a government that cannot feed its people is not worth to be called a government. We cannot be talking about, shortage of rains at this time. Yet, this country have used a lot of money in benchmarking in Israel and other countries on what can be done as far as food security is concerned. So as a government, as a government that cries every time because there's a shortage, because there was a dry spell, that should not be called a government. It's not worth to be called a government.
Prof, speaking of Raila's kind of narrative in Meru, let me just drag you back to Meru again. And it seems they were mostly targeting the deputy president. Something you spoke about yesterday, but it's very interesting. They've been doing that. I mean, the NASA outfit have been doing that whenever they're around Mount Kenya and these areas perceived to be Jubilee strongholds. Do you think they're trying to befriend and show the people there that they don't have any other issues, personal issues with Uhuru, but their greatest problem is Ruto? And they're telling people, because of the deputy president, then don't go ahead and vote the president himself and choose NASA.
Well, it seems to be a clever strategy because it's repeated. No less a person than the running mate for ODM, Kalonzo Musyoka, said that if Uhuru loses, it will be because of Ruto. So you can see the kind of the signal from that high. Yeah? And yes, there have been ruffles.
Yes.
And I think the deputy president was now addressing that issue very openly. That there are some people claiming that he is the problem, which is itself as a strategy is a good one for whoever is doing it, because you tend to create friction in the team. How much friction they are creating, it doesn't seem to be working because there seemingly is no friction between the president and his deputy. But there is an attempt to create that friction. That is very clear. Yes. So his response, from what we got there, was that if you have a problem with me, let's meet in 2022. So it's very clear in his mind that he's going to be there in 2022, and whoever wants to be there in 2022, you meet there. And we already know that there is a lot of campaign for 2022 in the ODM camp. Musalia is gunning for it. I think Mashinani is gunning for it.
Yes.
Of course, Kalonzo has insisted that he'll be there, but he has insisted before when he has not been there. So there are all people who are gunning now for 2022.
Yes.
Irrespective of the way they go about it.
Yeah, before we talk about 2022, of course, we have 2017 to cover. And, of course, to our viewers, if you're just joining us, we have a lot lined up for you still. We have 30 or so minutes to go before we end this show. And It's all about campaign trail. We do expect Deputy President William Ruto to address a rally in Githunguri shortly. Our senior political reporter Rita Tinina is on that, and we've already mentioned Kiambu to be a very rich county, both economically, of course, and the numbers of votes because it's only second to Nairobi. Now, Hassan, if I may just bring you in here, we've seen an upsurge in the number of independent candidates, especially in central Kenya. To be specific, even Kiambu, the current governor himself is now an independent candidate, thanks to what many have referred to as some sort of shambolic nominations. Do you think the numbers of independent candidates are going to cost Jubilee some votes in those areas?
I don't think so, because, I mean, unlike NASA, Jubilee has taken an accommodative approach to the independent candidates. Initially, of course, after the primaries, Jubilee came out strongly and said that we are only going to support our candidates in particular places. But considering that the independents also, are going obviously in particular places, marshal a lot of votes, then it only makes sense if you at least don't antagonize them. So, I mean, generally speaking, Jubilee has been more accommodative of the independents and other smaller, satellite parties. So, I mean, you have EFP in Mandera, for example. You have Frontier Alliance Party in places like Marsabit. I mean, talking of Marsabit, for example, this is a place that, gave NASA, or CORD, as it was constituted at that time, the governorship. But now you have a governor who is defending that on a different party. And actually, CORD or NASA or ODM is a no-show in Marsabit. And these are some of the areas that we are talking about, swing areas. If all the areas are strongholds, as we spoke, and they're already taken, then these are the places that you need to go and hunt for votes. And the fact that NASA is not present in some of these places is an obvious shortcoming.
Yes, exactly. It's something, of course, the NASA strategists are going to talk about. And issues to do with the upsurge of independent candidates is something that I would really like to hear your views on that. But first, let's just take a very short break, but we'll be right back with much more, including the rally that is happening in Githunguri right now, because we're getting reports that the Deputy President is about to address people there. We're going to link up with Rita Tinina shortly. And of course, there is another rally in Homa Bay. Rashid Ronald is keeping tabs on that. So we have a lot lined up for you, basically, in this show. We are not yet done. So we'll be right back after this short break. Don't go too far.